Of course, Washington D.C. is like at a standstill. It seems like so. We got our congressman.
Nothing going on.
Well, we're gonna find out. We got our congressman on the phone line, Congressman Bill Huizenga. How you doing today, Congressman?
Hey, we're doing all right, and I vote for Rihanna.
Okay. So, what is happening in Washington D.C.?
Well, we are. In fact, I'm on my way back there tomorrow morning, and obviously we've been dealing with the across-the-board cut piece, but that has been put in place, and we're now moving on to some other, frankly, I think some more important issues, which are how are we going to spend the money that we've got. That's the budget debate that we're going through right now, and that tends to take up a lot of our spring time usually as we go through the budget process. Of course, we've got some pretty serious things happening overseas as well. When you look at North Korea and Iran and them coming together and sharing technology and some other things, that gets a little scary on the international front as well.
Wow. Do you think this sequester thing is going to be permanent? Or do you think there would be a budget put together that would change things? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah. And in fact, that's what we did last week is we put forth a proposal. It's called a continuing resolution. What that continuing resolution does is it allows the government to spend money for the remainder of the year. And it'll reorder things, so it's not just across the board. It'll allow departments and the president, as well as us, to have a little more discretion as to what are some really good programs that need to be preserved and maybe don't need to see as much of a hit, and some other programs, like even in the Defense Department, programs that the Defense Department has said, we don't think this is a worthwhile program to put forward, but, it's continued to be funded, and, we think we ought to eliminate the program. So, and at the end of the day, Paul, we want to make it smarter in how we're spending, a more efficient, smarter government.
Yeah, go ahead, Big Rod.
Hey, Congressman Huizenga, explain to our listeners what a sequester of government is.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Can you explain to our listeners what a sequester of government is?
Yep. So what it means is that not the part that deals with Medicare or Social Security and all of that, but all of the other stuff that funds the Department of Defense, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Transportation, NASA, Homeland Security, those kinds of things. That is all experiencing an across-the-board cut. That is what the sequester, or the term of regular, those of us that want to speak English, not all this fancy words, sequester means just an across-the-board cut that is being put in place. And so all of the different departments are feeling a bit of that pinch outside of the Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and those kinds of entitlement, quote-unquote entitlement programs, such as healthcare.
So programs for the poor, are they being affected?
Depending on which department and which, so for example, HUD. HUD is going to need to do some sort of trim back. Now the question is, how do you prioritize that? And there's some reports that came out in the last couple of weeks from it's called the Inspector General of each of these departments, that somebody goes in and makes sure that we're spending money the way that it should be spent, that we're doing it wisely, and there's not any waste, fraud, and that kind of thing. And they've identified about $65 billion. And you got to remember, this across the board cut is $85 billion. So almost all of it, they've identified areas where if we get smart in Washington, we should just adopt those recommendations and take care of that. And that means that anybody who is getting touched by it won't be touched quite as deeply. But ultimately, at the end of the day, Paul, we need to make sure that these are programs really, truly helping people. And if they are doing that, we need to try to preserve them and make sure that that they continue to help people.
Well,
If they're not, then we need to look at how we change them, modify them, or maybe even get rid of them.
How do you feel about the White House canceling the tours of the White House?
Yeah, that is unfortunately, I think, more about political show than it is about the public policy. These are self-guided tours. Pretty clearly, the idea here is they want to ramp up the public cane so that those school kids from Michigan or Illinois or wherever else that are coming out to Washington D.C. on spring break suddenly are inconvenienced and aren't able to go into the White House. That is not where our spending problem is. It's in a lot of other things. There's the old saying, penny wise and pound foolish. It seems to me that is one of those. There's really no need to shut down the White House for tours like that when there's so many other places where we can go and really tighten up our operation.
Well, one last question. I know you got to go. This is the last question. Offshore bank accounts. I'm hearing a lot of conversation about offshore banking accounts costing our government billions of dollars. You think that's going to be talks included into the budget, how we can close those gaps?
Yeah, there is. In fact, I sit on the Financial Services Committee, and that is definitely a discussion of how are we going to make sure that people aren't trying to avoid their obligations and their taxes that are being assessed. Some of those things are legal. Some of those things are not legal. And some of them you kind of look at them and go, it just doesn't smell right. It looks like somebody may not be technically breaking the law, but it looks like they're trying to avoid something, and that's where we need to tighten that up as well.
All right. I know you got to go, Congressman. Let's talk real soon as we get this thing solid, and hopefully get something passed. You see any hope in the next couple of days, or it's going to drag on for a while?
Yeah, well, the budget process itself takes a little while. This continuing resolution, hopefully we'll see some activity. We passed it in the House now. The Senate has to deal with it and have to pass it, or come up with a bill that's a little different, and then we go into conference and we hash out those differences and then get it to the president. So hopefully we'll be able to do that here soon in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Make sure you have a good day, Congressman. Thank you so much.
All right. You gentlemen as well. Thanks for having me on.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. There you go. He's our representative in Washington, D.C., Congressman Bill Huizenga,
Yes.
talking about sequester going on in Washington, D.C. They canceled the tours, Rob. You can't go to the White House now. Just like that. I heard that wasn't costing that much money, but the White House chose to do that.